I'm TrekTrav. Welcome to TrekTrav. This is just all the Star Trek, and this is your Star Trek V, The Final Frontier review. The best, the worst, maybe just middling. There is a lot to this film, so like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think about it in the comments, and let's get into it.
Excuse me.
It will carry my power to every corner of creation.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
Bring the ship closer.
I said, what does God need with a starship?
So Star Trek V is a unique feature film. It is often rated the worst Star Trek film. I imagine after Section 31 at this point, but we won't get into that. Overall, the film starts off with a lot of symbolism. A man in a desert drilling, a horse coming from the distance in slow motion. Visually beautiful film, directed by William Shatner. His first directing job in a Star Trek film, and his last. Because, as you probably know if you're watching this review, did not go down very well. Basically, we are introduced to the character of Sybok by him being on top of a horse, talking about this person's pain on the planet, and we see him laugh. Sybok laughs. He's a Vulcan. Pointy ears. Laughs. We cut to Bones, Kirk, and Spock. Kirk is climbing a big mountain. Clearly not Kirk. And we have Spock and that are all camping in Yosemite National Park. And Kirk is climbing this mountain, which is if you watch the special features, a clever, like a rock climbing plane. Otherwise, it's a professional rock climber. And obviously, with higher definition, you can clearly see that it is not William Shatner. Then Kirk comes up, starts distracting him. Some really good sort of funny banter, like, why are you climbing a mountain? And because it's there. Overall, it's like a nice, cute little scene until Kirk gets distracted, falls off the mountain. Bones is obviously watching, talking to himself. There's a lot of really great character interaction in these moments, especially the camping ones. It does feel a lot like they've gone back to TOS. Spock, Bones, McCoy, the three of them together. Sulu and Chekhov are on holiday in a forest as well. Might be Yosemite. I don't know why they'd camp separately. Uhura is on the ship. Scotty is on the ship. And when Kirk arrives, he gets a briefing from an admiral who is Harv Bennett, the producer of this film. But it's just a brief cameo, and told that Nimbus 3, the planet of galactic peace, is under threat, which is where we were at the beginning of this film. Now, there's some funny moments. Scotty has some really funny moments. Uhura has some really great moments. There's a little bit of flirting between them throughout this film. I think Bones and Spock works really well. There's some clever jokes. This film overall leads us to them going to Nimbus 3.
Are the guards blocking your way particularly horny? Well, why don't you send your middle-aged comms officer to dance on top of a sand dune with some fans? That'll distract them well and good. And although highly unprofessional, this is the perfect way to get rid of those guards, so your captain, his first officer, and his doctor for some reason can go into the complex and actually save the ambassadors.
Them trying to rescue these three ambassadors. Turns out those ambassadors are working with Sybok. Sybok ends up being Spock's brother, so we get a random Spock affiliate, just like Michael Burnham in Discovery. So when people say, why is Michael Burnham related to Spock? It's because Spock doesn't tell people shit about his family. But it's this interesting reaction where Spock, Kirk, and Bones are taken on board after this and put in the brig. And all of the crew is manipulated by Sybok. We don't know whether this is some sort of mystical power he has or something, but he can feel their pain. It probably comes into the mild telepathic thing of the Vulcans. The actor who plays Sybok is brilliant. And I think Sybok's an interesting character. I don't know why he has to be related to Spock. I suppose it gives it an emotional attachment to Spock. Scotty breaks Kirk, Bones, and Spock out of the brig, and they escape and they try and send a message, and then Cyborg confronts them, shows Spock his pain, shows Bones his pain. Kirk says, I need my pain. And Bones and Spock don't defect and sort of go help Cyborg. They talk about it, but it's one of those things. I think the actors actually rallied around and said that Spock and Bones wouldn't do that. They wouldn't give up their friendship with Kirk just to join this guy. And I agree with that. I think it's a good statement. I think Shatner obviously helped with the script, but I think that there was a few things that he had to sort of give up. Everyone other than Spock, Bones, and Kirk are pretty much brainwashed by Cyborg completely. Cyborg, we find, wants to go to the planet of Shakari, Eden, a bunch of other names that he lists in the film. Basically, the Garden of Eden at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, which we now know is a black hole, but we didn't back when this film came out. We go through there, we land on a big planet, which, surprise, surprise, big desert planet. Sensing may have been filmed in somewhere in California. And we meet God. Or do we? Because what does God need with a starship?
I just feel like they're not grateful. You know, I gave them water, the sun, a clear roadmap to hating gays.
So they meet God, and God sort of the being that says it is God pretends to be all of the gods. And then when he says he wants to leave this place and he wants to bring the starship closer, they immediately start to question, why does God need a starship? And it turns out it's not God. It's essentially the devil.
I am Satan. I am your god now.
Or at least a bad alien creature. We see them wrestle with this. Cyborg, to help them escape, goes into the field where this big god head is. Bones, Spock, and Kirk run away. Bones and Spock are transported back aboard the Enterprise. Kirk is left there alone. And he has to run away from God zapping with laser eyes, which is anticlimactic-ish. There is another plot running through this film, which is a Klingon who gets the transmission and is essentially hunting down Kirk and the Enterprise. Why he's there? Probably just for Klingons. But one of the ambassadors, also Klingon, convinces them to help Kirk, destroys the big, lazy, fiery alien god, and Kirk is rescued. Then they go back to their holiday. Cyborg is dead. Spock is grieving. This is just a brief version of the story. Now, all of the actors are on game. They're all funny, charismatic, great interactions. It does feel like a bit of a step back from the character growth of the first four films, mainly because I want to say William Shatner wrote it that way, and I imagine the studio wanted it to be a bit more comedic, like Star Trek 4. But certainly the actors seem to be enjoying what they were doing. They seem to really like sort of the elements of it. Direction-wise, I think this film looks really good. It's really, really lit down by the fact that ILM isn't doing the special effects. So Industrial Light and Magic had done 2, 3, and 4, I believe. And this film, they went away, so they had to use different production companies. Now, if you want to look at the worst graphics in a Star Trek film, this one is it. Especially, like, it's almost Superman 4 level of shitty graphics. We get sort of really strong matte lines, no depth in the star field. The models are, like, sometimes static images. It's even the sound design isn't very good. It just seems to be a little bit like they couldn't afford a decent company, or maybe there wasn't one at the time. Really great sequences like the shuttle crash landing into the back of the Enterprise, which is really good. We get to see these shuttles, and they're fantastic props and miniatures. Like, to be honest, they're my favorite Star Trek shuttle. They started tweaking them later on, but in this film, like, I love, and if you can see it here, I love these shuttles. And the physical Enterprise sets look really, really good. We do get a little bit of too much cartooniness from Scotty. James Doohan playing up the comedy, like him knowing the ship by the back of his hands, then he bangs his head. For me, the core characters like Chekhov, Sulu, Scotty, Uhura, for them to join Cybok in a way, sort of very much takes away from them as characters. They sort of get pushed to the sideline for Kirk, Spock, and Bones. And that lends to the idea that William Shatner was kind of writing for TOS. Now, having a big godlike enemy is actually a very Star Trek thing. Gene Roddenberry loved that idea. So they basically fly to what they considered Eden, they find the devil. And that's what William Shatner said it was. And what we get is a really good sort of finding the devil, oh, that's horrible, really mystical, sort of playing on how much does grief affect your life. A lot of big themes in the movie, but they're very lit down by the fact that they never go too far into them. The god creature itself was meant to create rock creatures, and if you've seen the test footage for the rock creatures, I think they look pretty cool, to be honest. They're a lot better than god-face laser eyes. But yeah, the Klingon element, so the captain with the giant fucking 80s rock hair, it's just a bit silly. They're all muscle builders, and I don't know, there's something about them that is just a bit stupid. Like, they're not really a bad guy. They just want to go and win the spoils of beating Kirk. And it's a very Kirk-centric movie. And it's funny because I suppose the last 3 films were very Spock-focused, whereas this one's very Kirk-focused, talking about needing his pain to do things, his strengths and stuff like that. No mention of David in this, which would have been the perfect place to mention David. And sort of, I think it needed more gravity to it. Star Trek 4 had a lot of comedy elements, but that suited the movie it was in. It was an uplifting movie. There is no bad guy in Star Trek 4. Whereas Star Trek 5, there's a very clear bad guy and a very clear guy who's sort of got ulterior motives. Now, Cybok himself isn't a bad character. He's trying to find something. He doesn't hurt anyone. He just has a goal that he wants to obtain. And the actor playing Cybok is really good. Emotional scenes with Spock are some of the greatest stuff. We learned that Spock's father was ashamed of having a half-human Vulcan child, which is ridiculous because I just feel like Spock's father would have, if he married a woman, of course he's going to have a half-human child. And it really sort of speaks to that. It feels like it speaks to that William Shatner didn't quite accept that time had moved on. And if you watch Star Trek 2, 3, and 4, they're very much about time moving on and these characters getting older and the growth of them. And Star Trek 5 feels like, forget all that, midlife crisis. But it is genuinely one of those films that I actually enjoy watching. I wish they had done like an updated special effects thing. Like, you can find them on YouTube. Just do it for Star Trek 5. It's the only one that needs better graphics. I also wish, to be honest, that I suppose TOS doesn't really focus on the background crew members a lot. Scotty, I think this is the basis for Scotty in the Kelvin Timeline films, of being that humorous, joking character. And I don't think that works here because Scotty wasn't that in TOS. He wasn't that in the previous films. He was humorous, but not like an outright the comic relief. Uhura in this barely gets anything to do. And she also looks a bit odd with like the grey in her hair, and the flirting with Scotty sort of comes out of nowhere. And is never mentioned in the next film, and it's a weird thing. I personally like this film. I think it's a lot more flack than it should, but it's certainly better in terms of character than some other Star Trek films. In terms of story, it tries big things but doesn't nail them because of bad special effects, because of writing that doesn't go in depth enough about the concept. But overall, the character journey between Kirk and Spock and Cybok and Bones and that group, brilliant. Why do we get a 3-breasted Catwoman? William Shatner, I guarantee you. Although, to be fair, it was really cool. And also the set built for for Nimbus 3 was the biggest set constructed for Star Trek up to that point. And you can see it. It looks amazing. There is also a lot of reuse of corridor sets from TNG. So it was sort of that period of time where they were sort of not crossing over, but you know what I mean, that they were reusing things. And it kind of bugs me when they do that, to be honest. Overall, look, out of 10, I would give it a 5. It's not the worst film. It's not the best film, but it's a bit of fun. And it's a bit dodgy. Jerry Goldsmith brings a great Star Trek score again, and Jerry Goldsmith is a solid composer for Star Trek. Tell me what you think about Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, and is All You Ask a tall ship and a star to steer her by? I've been TrekTrav. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll be back very soon with another video.